Welcome to Mythic Yoga Flow. This is teaching tips for Ganesha. Trust the journey. We'll begin by standing up. In the very first pose, Tadasana, every pose has foundation, and foundation is key. And every pose, we have key actions of drawing in and expanding out. In the first pose, Tadasana, Beryl, bring your hands to your hips. Look down to your feet and turn your feet so they are straight forward from the middle of the ankle to the base of the second toe, 2 lines straight forward. Then bend your knees, lift and spread your toes, and we find the 4 corners to the feet. Press down through the mound of the big toe, then the mound of the inner heel, the mound of the little toe, and the mound of the outer heel. And create the lift in the arches in the bottom of your feet so the foundation supports everything else. As you keep the 4 corners of the feet grounded and the arches lifted, hug the muscles all around the leg bones evenly in to the center and draw in from the earth up towards your low belly. Stay strong through the power of your legs, and then spin your inner thighs back to get a lift through the low back. Breathe your belly back. Start hugging the legs straight. Keep your low back curve in and up. Root down through the tailbone. Now stretch down through your legs and reach your arms up overhead. Hook your thumbs together. From the 4 corners of the foundation, everything else is supported. There's a hugging in and an expanding out. To create more power in many of the poses, we will take a block and squeeze it way up high at the inner thighs. So Beryl, place this way up high at the inner thighs. You take a block and get it as high up in the inner adductor muscles as you can, and do these basic principles. Bend the knees, lift and spread your toes with your feet straight forward, root through the 4 corners. Now hug the block to the center, keep the legs strong, spin the inner thighs back, low back in and up. Then draw the belly back and keep hugging the legs, the muscles to the bones as you stand up tall through the spine. Anchor down through the tailbone and press your hands down into the hip bones to the legs. Inhale, re-extend the arms wide and up and hook your thumbs. When the foundation is clear and we create stability by hugging in, then the extension allows us to elongate and decompress the whole spine, and this then becomes the foundation pose for everything else. Exhale, release your arms wide and all the way down. So that's our first key teaching tip. Second key teaching tip for this foundation class of Ganesha, I'll take the block here, is downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Beryl, if you come to all fours facing this direction. We'll begin on all fours, hands and knees, and walk your knees back just a little bit, you're fine, right behind the hips. Just like the feet have 4 corners, now the hands are part of the foundation and also have 4 corners. So on the hands, you create powerful connection with your hands to the earth and root down through the mound of the index finger, the mound of the heel, the mound of the little finger, and then the mound of the outer heel of the hand. And like the feet have arches, so do the hands. So there is this central arch in the center of the hand. As you claw your fingers down in the underside of the knuckles, ground the 4 corners, and grow the lift up through the central palm of the hand. Then this also gives us a strong support in the foundation. As you have the hands strong, curl your toes under, breathe into the back of your body, and as you fill the breath into the back of the body, slightly soften at the base of the heart. Keep the toes curled under. Inhale, lift your hips up and back, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Now, key thing for this pose, which we do a lot of in yoga classes, is to have that same power in the legs that we just had in Tadasana so that the low back is in proper alignment. The alignment of the legs, the power of the legs is what governs the health of the low back. Beryl, bend your knees and lift your heels. So we begin in this modified form. Go back to your hands. Make sure that they're strong in the foundation. With the knees bent and your heels lifted, hug the leg muscles back into the bones of the legs. And same as we did in standing, spin the inner thighs back and apart until the low back draws in and up. And you want to hold this curve in the low back, then bring support, breathe the belly back towards the front of the spine without rounding the low back. Once you have that, hug the leg muscles in more and press the top of your thigh bones straight back. Extend the legs more and more. Keep the low back in, the base of the belly breathing back, and right here at the base of the heart, soften. Everything is ready now for the full extension of the pose. Out of the heart, stretch down through the arms, up through the hips, and down through your legs. And you can really extend the pose fully once you have everything grounded and clear in the alignment. And how's that feel?
So good.
Great. Okay, so in that final part of the pose, legs are strong and extended, low back in, base of the heart with a soft release and full extension. Thank you. And come down. Let's lie, Beryl, on your back with your head this direction. This pose is a favorite pose for almost everyone. It's called Supta Padangusthasana. Now, in this pose, the key thing we're looking for is the action of the legs to ground the femur bones back. So from the top of your knee up to your pelvis is the femur bone, the thigh bone. And when the thigh bones move to the back of the body towards the hamstrings, and in this case, towards the floor, then that creates a healthy state for the hips to open and for the low back to be properly lined up. The rooting of the thigh bones governs the health of the low back. That's the key teaching. For this one, bend your elbows by the sides of your body, and this will let us create more action. Then spread your toes and activate all four corners of your feet, just like you did standing. Mound of big toe, inner heel, mound of little toe, and the outer heel. You keep pressing back down through the heels, hug the leg muscles to the bones, and press the inner thighs down into the earth and get the whole back of the leg to press down into your mat. And right away, this helps the connective tissue in the low back to have more healing. You have a gentle lift in the curve of the low back with the base of the belly resting back towards the spine. Beryl will keep her left heel down, her left leg down, and draw the right knee up with the leg bent. Then reach around and hold the back of your right thigh with both hands. The key here is to keep this bottom leg grounded. To do that, press your heel down, press down through the inner thigh, widen from underneath that bottom leg, and press straight down. So you have as much grounding Ganesha power as possible. Now at home, you will notice that the more you start to stretch through the top leg, oftentimes the bottom leg lifts up and turns out. So lift and thigh and show what happens. So this is what often happens when we practice. We go deep for the stretch, but we unplug from the foundation. And now it's not nearly as effective as what it could be. So we have to back out of the pose. Ground the bottom heel down, turn the bottom leg in, keep the leg muscles strong, and press the thigh down to the earth. Then the pose can truly open. And stay there. It's also possible for many friends to use a strap. And you put the strap around the bottom of the foot, hold the strap with your arms out to the side, bend your elbows wide, and give your focus. Press down through the heel, turn the leg in, ground the femur, and breathe. Every time we ground the femur bones, it helps us to build trust in the journey of this path. So it relieves anxiety and connects us to our foundation and to our center. Just as the bottom leg presses down, so does the top leg, the thigh bone. Anchor back, away from the belly, thigh bone to the hamstring, as you take the leg deeper and deeper. Okay, and then you can release and stretch it all the way out. And turn to the side and come up to seated barrel. Then the final teaching tip for this foundational class is how to take a seated pose that has comfort for the body and allows the spine to elongate. Could you turn sideways? And I think turn this way so I can show the back. So just like standing, we want the legs and the hips to be anchored and relaxed in the proper alignment so that the low back curve can have its natural arch. Back pain often comes from either the back of the sacrum and the lumbar spine pushing posterior, so round here and show them. We take a seat and we're doing things and all of this part is rounded and then we reach to pick up things, and this is not a good alignment for the human body. So we have to learn how to use our legs properly and create the right curve in the low back, especially when we're seated or if we bend forward to pick something up. Now, if you go to sit upright, but it's very difficult for you to lift up through the low back, we can try a few things. The first thing is to take your hand to your inner thigh and your other hand to your sitting bone, so you can go to your left, and you turn the top of the inner leg in and then widen the sitting bone back and apart. And then you do the same thing to the other side, turn the leg in, take your hand to the back side of the buttocks and the sitting bone and widen. That widens the foundation to give you more openness in the hips so that you can lift up through the low back curve. If you do that and the back is still rounded, so you have done that at home and still you reach around and the sacrum pushes posterior and the lumbar spine, then the next trick is to take your blanket and create just enough height that allows you to create this proper lift through the low back. So now we'll sit up on the blanket right at the edge. That then will help you get the widening of the pelvis and the lift from the sacrum up through the lumbar spine. You can bring your hands to your thighs, slide your hands back a little bit, stay wide and relaxed through the pelvis, lift up through the low back, breathe the base of the ribs back and tone the base of the belly back, then reach your arms wide and up like we did standing. Hook your thumbs at the top, anchor down through the pelvis, and lift up and brighten through the spine. Then release your arms down for a comfortable seated position. And this then would be a good meditation seat to take, or simply to do practices of mudra, mantra, or even sitting at home in whatever place you find yourself. So we thank you for being with us for Ganesha Teaching Tips. Namaste. And thank you, Beryl.